You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Friday 23rd of May 2014. Not all big pharma are the bad guys as GlaxoSmithKline freezes prices on vaccines for developing nations. 6 men charged with arranging child prostitution in Sussex. Dutch running scared of Saudi sanctions over Geert Wilders' anti-Islam stickers. Swiss court rules Nazi salute is not racist if it meant as a personal political statement. French cops to bulldoze Calais migrant camps. Father of Islamic bride 12 gave her sex tips, court papers claim. Did this guy flood villages to get slave labour? Thanks to liberal European pharmaceutical companies, the firing squad and electric chair are making a comeback in the USA. Thought for the day, we live in a country where… And finally, the argument, or is it? To lead with today, although we will not have Nick Griffin MEP this Friday because he's having a well-deserved rest from all his pre-EU election work, we have the first very excellent result of the council elections in Marsden Ward, Nelson, Lancashire. UKIP 154, Labour 312, Conservative 333 and British National Party 339. A stunning victory against all the odds. Despite everything thrown at us by our race-hating masters, we've been triumphant and have set a precedent for future campaigns. You will of course not hear about this in the national media. UK news. Not all big pharma are the bad guys as GlaxoSmithKline freezes prices on vaccines for developing nations. GlaxoSmithKline has announced that it will be freezing the prices of its vaccines for developing countries that graduate from GAVI, Global Allowance for Vaccines and Immunisation Alliance support, over the next 5 years. It'll mean Gavi eligible countries will still be able to receive vaccines against pneumococcal disease, rotavirus and cervical cancer for the lowest available price, which can often be up to 90% lower than the product's cost in developed nations. This will help governments in poorer nations as they make the challenging transition to financing the full cost of their own local vaccination programmes. By 2020 it's expected that 22 countries with growing economies will graduate from Gavi support. Since its formation in 2000, the Gavi Alliance has helped to fund the immunisation of 440 million children in some of the world's poorest countries. The graduation scheme allows the organisation to focus its support on the most underprivileged areas. Sir Andrew Whitty, Chief Executive Officer of GlaxoSmithKline, said, "I'm pleased that we are able to offer governments a price freeze to help ensure that children continue to be protected by a national immunisation programme." The company produces vaccines for a wide range of diseases including malaria. It strengthened its capabilities in this field through the acquisition of Okaros last year. World at 8. With all these diseases now in this country, we Brits will soon have to take advantage of this soon, won't we? Six men charged with arranging child prostitution in Sussex. 6 men have been charged with a series of sex offences against a 16-year-old girl. Sussex Police said it was the first prosecution in the county for alleged child sexual exploitation by a group. A 12-month investigation centred around alleged offences committed while the girl was staying at a flat in Newhaven in May last year. The 6 men have all been charged with conspiracy to arrange the prostitution of a child. The men, who are due to appear at Brighton Magistrates Court on the 5th of June, are Christopher Kayla-Joseph, 26 of Elphick Road, Newhaven, Mohammed Kamali, 45 of Harper Road, Newhaven, Khosrow Sobhanieh, 55 of North Lane, Guestling near Hastings, Stephen Daramola, 47 of Park Lane, Eastbourne, Khalid Del-Rosario, 44 of Upperton Road, Eastbourne, Guiseppe Carella, 18 of Brighton Road, Newhaven. Mr Carella and Mr Sobhanieh have also been charged with rape and Mr Daramola with sexual assault. Mr Kayla-Joseph was also charged with 2 offences of supplying cocaine. World at 8. This news is specially for an unnamed idiot who rang me last night late and was trying to say that owing to our PPB, our party political broadcast, did we think that all the white guys who did sexual grooming should be deported as well. Got the bigger picture, matey? Although these retards above are not a bunch of Muslims per se from the usual community up north, they ain't English either, are they? Got it? Mr South East, who couldn't give his name because of the stigma of the BNP? How can these idiots survive birth? European news. Dutch running scared of Saudi sanctions over Geert Wilder's anti-Islam stickers. The Netherlands will send a top diplomat to Saudi Arabia to prevent the country from imposing trade sanctions in protest at anti-Islamic stickers printed in the colours of the Saudi flag by a Dutch far-right politician, the Foreign Ministry said. The Saudi authorities have not announced any sanctions on the Netherlands, one of the Gulf Arab kingdom's largest investors, but Saudi media reported this week that such measures had already taken effect, citing unnamed officials. Dutch exports to Saudi Arabia are worth some €2 billion, that is $2.7 billion a year, according to the Dutch Statistics Office. Geert Wilders, the leader of an anti-immigration Dutch Freedom Party, had stickers bearing slogans derogatory to Islam printed in December as part of his campaign material. The Netherlands cannot be held responsible for the adolescent behaviour of a single parliamentarian, Foreign Minister Frans Timmermans said on Dutch broadcaster RTL. We will do everything possible to keep the consequences for the Netherlands as limited as possible, he said. On Tuesday, Saudi news website www.sabak.org quoted an unnamed Saudi Foreign Ministry official as saying that the kingdom had immediately begun enforcing a decision imposing trade sanctions on Dutch companies in response to the behaviour of the Dutch politician Geert Wilders. That was seen as an insult to Islam. Wilders, in reaction to possible trade measures by Saudi Arabia, said in a statement on Saturday that the Netherlands should have boycotted that country a long time ago. World at 8. I can think of something. Try exporting masses of pork to Saudi. Then they should get the message, shouldn't they? East is east and west is west, and near the twain shall meet. Swiss court rules Nazi salute is not racist if meant as a personal political statement. Performing a Nazi salute is neither illegal nor racist if it is meant as a personal statement, a Swiss court has ruled. The Federal Supreme Court of Switzerland decided that the Hitler salute is not always punishable and is only a crime if the perpetrator is trying to spread racial hatred. Judges agreed that although offensive, the action was not illegal if it was only meant to express someone's own ideological stance. The ruling, which will serve as a precedent for Swiss law, came at the end of an appeal by a man charged with racial discrimination. He'd been convicted by another court after performing a Hitler salute in public at a demonstration by the far-right Swiss Nationalist Party, PNOS, in 2010. The man allegedly held up his arm for 20 seconds while the 150 protesters recited the oath of the old Swiss Confederacy taken from William Tell. Walkers and police officers also witnessed the gesture at the famous Ruetli Meadow above Lake Lucerne where, according to legend, the modern Swiss Confederation was formed in 1291. The Swiss government previously decided not to ban Nazi symbols, including the swastika. World at 8. The salute of the Third Reich was taken from the old Roman salute, hand on chest then up in air. It used to be a common salute for armed forces and tribes all over the world. French cops to bulldoze Calais migrant camps. Police in northern France plan to dismantle a series of improvised migrant camps, including one dubbed the Syrian camp, after an outbreak of scabies. It's part of the ongoing tension in the city of Calais, where thousands of immigrants have massed with hopes of reaching the UK. Up to 850 migrants are believed to be living in Calais at present, with as many as 650 at the port alone. The port attracts scores of migrants hoping to smuggle themselves across the Channel to the UK, which some see as having a more generous policy towards refugees. World at 8. Oh joy, scabies in the UK. As I'm sure we will oblige our French friends and take these remnants in. World news. Father of Islamic bride 12 gave her sex tips, court papers claim. The father of a 12-year-old child bride advised her only to have unprotected sex after he organised for her to wed an older man in an Islamic ceremony, court papers claim. In a case that has shocked Australia, the girl's 61-year-old Muslim convert father was charged with procuring his young daughter for sex and being an accessory before the fact to child sex after consenting to her marrying a 26-year-old man. The girl's husband was charged with 25 counts of sexual intercourse with a child after he wed the girl in the living room of her Hunter Region family home on January the 12th. They had met at a mosque through the girl's father, who police allege facilitated the relationship by allowing them to exchange phone numbers and letting them meet 3 times before they were wed. The matter was yesterday mentioned in Burwood local court, where the man and girl's father were expected to enter a plea. However, the magistrate was told the parties needed more time to negotiate with authorities. When the father was first told by police that the husband had been arrested, he allegedly said, "But they are married." Asked if he would allow his 8-year-old daughter to marry at 12, police alleged the man said he would, to prevent the sin of sex before marriage. The girl and her sister are now in Department of Community Services care. The imam who performed the ceremony, Mohammed Riaz Tazawar, 35, was fined $500 after pleading guilty to solemnising the marriage. World at 8. Haven't the Aussies heard of deportation? Even if he is a convert, he's made money out of this transaction, or she would not have been married. It's all money based, so he should be charged with pimping and living off immoral earnings as well. Now the Aussies will have to pay for these girls forever. Did this guy flood villages to get slave labour? Robert Mugabe isn't known for his human rights record, but is the Zimbabwean leader villainous enough to flood whole villages to create a source of cheap labour? Some 20,000 villagers were displaced from a region in southern Zimbabwe earlier this year and resettled on a ranch that just happened to be jointly owned by Mugabe's party and businessman ally, the Christian Science Monitor reports. A Human Rights Watch investigation finds that the villagers are being forced to grow sugarcane for an ethanol project, and the flood was deliberately created to get them off their land without paying compensation. The flood was declared a national disaster and media reports claimed a dam wall collapse had caused the floods, but that is false information, says a senior employee at the Italian firm that helped build the dam. The dam wall did not collapse and was never in danger of collapsing. With sluice gates and spillways open, it would have taken at least 5 years for the dam to fill up to capacity, but in this case they were deliberately closed. The international community donated food aid after the flood, but villagers have been told food aid distribution depends on their work, and provincial officials have been accused of selling off some of the aid for profit. World at 8. In short, yes, Mugabe did. It's in his nature. He is a killer, even though an old killer. They do not change their spots without an awful lot of help. Thanks to liberal European pharmaceutical companies, the firing squad and electric chair are making a comeback in the USA. A botched execution in Oklahoma last month has seen US states reassessing their death penalty procedures. The state of Wyoming has considered allowing death row inmates to be executed by firing squad, while Tennessee has signed a bill to bring back the electric chair, following a nationwide shortage of the drugs used to administer lethal injections. A Wyoming legislative committee has directed its staff to draft a firing bill squad for consideration ahead of next year's legislative session starting in January. And in Tennessee, the electric chair, last used in 2007, is now an option for executions in the state if lethal injection drugs are unavailable, following a bill that was signed by the governor on Thursday. Meanwhile, lawmakers in Utah are also considering a return to the firing squad, which was outlawed in the state in 2004. Bob Lampert, director of the Wyoming Department of Corrections, told members of the Wyoming Legislature's Joint Interim Judiciary Committee last week in Rawlins that drugs for lethal injections have become increasingly difficult to obtain. They are often withheld by pharmaceutical companies in Europe who disapprove of the death penalty. World at 8. Nothing beats the old ways. The old ways are the best. Thought for the day. We live in a country where... Running a close second on my talk on Wednesday about us having done our job already, even though we've been hushed up and ignored throughout the last 5 years, and even more so during the run-up to these EU elections, we still live in a country that, although I would always fight for, does seem to be extracting the Michael from its indigenous peoples even more so than in previous years. You note I said I would fight for my country, but that doesn't include all the people in it. In fact, it doesn't include all the migrants, not one of them, and I'm being honest. I don't care if they've integrated, but in truth, most, if not all, have not integrated or accepted the English way of life at all. I'm leaving out the only group of people that we actually had the stupidity to ask for in the first place, and that is the original West Indians, who came over in the early 50s. Many of these have integrated insofar they have settled and got jobs and raised their children. However much trouble we now get from their descendants is, of course, never mentioned in polite society. No, I'm talking of the millions who come here ostensibly to make a better life for themselves. And do you know, I hear this stupid and sentimental message from the triers in X Factor to Britain's Got No Talent all the time, and it always gets an ah from the audience, who for the most part wouldn't know a bad life if it came up and hit them squarely on the schnoz. But the plain truth is that many, if not all, our migrants in the last 50 years are just economic migrants, and that is all. Many cause their own countries to eject them, and then they come here and reconstruct their own cultures and creeds in our country. They don't go back and do it in their own. And why? Because Britain is soft touch Britain, and the average Brit is a soft touch as well to the foreigners. Let us not forget that many, if not all, these migrants are not remotely nationalistic about the UK, except when it comes to benefits, money, jobs and breeding. Many acquire a form of love for their mother or father country when they've got settled into the UK, and this will entail much money leaving our shores and being deposited with what family or clan they leave behind, and frequent visits back home to arrange marriages with yet more relations coming into the UK, and business deals and holidays. All of which you cannot apply to a genuine political asylum seeker. All of which lately seem to be homosexuals or lesbians who, as we all know, are all entitled to a family life to which the average Brit is not entitled to. So here I am sitting in a country which I love. Make no mistake, I still think England is the loveliest country in the world to live in, and all these economic migrants cannot be wrong, can they? But I'm thinking on the actual status of my indigenous countrymen, and then straight talking has to start. Much of it many will not like. We live in a country, state, establishment in which a young soldier can be run down, knifed and decapitated in broad daylight, and no one, not even our foreign migrants, runs to his aid at the right time. But allow a car licence to get out of date for many and personal reasons, and you will be reported by a kindly neighbour to the powers that be. As a country, we've suffered Muslim sexual grooming gangs for the last 40 years, especially in the northern parts of the country, where these people first settled en masse, and yet very little has been reported or acted upon by our own people, and yet a bunch of wrinkly ex-celebrities are currently being prosecuted and hounded by the media for what are, in the most part, very old gropings of mainly youngish girls who made it their business to be around these men almost before the wheel was invented, because that was what fans did. The sexuality of the 60s and 70s was for the most part much healthier than nowadays, and realistic. We live in a country where very young children are stuck in front of the television, allowed access to computers, mobiles, Xboxes and numerous other electronic items, and yet because of health and safety wallers, a game of conkers is not allowed, nor a healthy run in a field, because they might fall over. There is very little evidence of anyone dying from having a scraped knee, but the effect of all the electronic ions and screens on kids of tender years has yet to be given out publicly. In this country we have allowed our churches to be robbed of copper and lead, sold to banks for wine bars, or simply left to rot. But now our establishment have the answer. Turn them into mosques to appease the ever-growing Muslim communities and try to stop them building new horrifying Eastern edifices all over our country. But it doesn't work, does it? Give a Muslim an inch and he will take a mile, and every single town in this country of any size boasts a mosque or an Islamic centre or meeting hall, which is virtually exactly the same thing. No government or council boosts for our churches though in this increasingly atheistic void. We as a people have fed into the online shopping brigade like it's going out of fashion. We virtually live our virtual lives through our computers. Out have gone our meeting places of old, never to be replaced. Our high streets have been left open to foreign shops and bazaar-like emporiums. Our social lives are reduced to a screen, and it's all more expensive than the originals were. We've even built our new estates to accomplish this quicker. Most, if not all, are built without shops or even near shops, and if you don't happen to have a car, you are, to put it crudely, buggered. We have plods who take great delight in arresting and charging on relatively small counts our white population, taking their possessions, to be divided amongst them in many cases, or certainly never returned, told to plead guilty to charges they didn't do because they would avoid a custodial sentence which should not be deserved anyway, and the number go up on white crimes. But anyone who is foreign, especially a Muslim, can and does get away with murder, and in fact gets paid for the privilege of doing so. There is one law for us whites and one law for the others, and this is in our country, not theirs. You can rest assured that in the average Brit's haste to accommodate, pay for and sacrifice for his foreign brothers, that all the high-speed trains, roads, new airports, new built houses will be occupied by law by foreigners. No council will pass building regs unless it accommodates a percentage of migrants classed as needy. Never mind the poor white couple with the one child who've been on the list for the last 10 years. Rest assured we will look after our newcomers better than we look after our own. The elderly, our elderly, what a laugh! Amidst all the dementia societies and Friends and willing euthanasia brigade and the apparent drain and future drain on our young in the future because we're all going to go balmy within the next few years, our elderly are disliked and unrespected throughout this green and pleasant land. It is our fault that the state of the country has come about, but why? It is the baby boomers' kids that have been indulged in diversity in the multiracial society, and that is what they're blaming us for? Doesn't make sense, does it? Now, what I did see on a strip of grass outside my small town, or one horse whatever, the other day was worthy of a film. In all the moves of the establishment and media to make our old people look needy on one side with the dignity for the elderly tripe, which doesn't work, and stupid on the other with probable overcrowding of A&Es, this picture took the prize. It was a picture straight out of Nepal. A group of around 8 Nepalese, all in their traditional dress, all sitting down on the grass and all waiting for either a car to pick them up or the bus. But do you know the most idiotic thing? They were all the other side of 65, every single one of them, and I would take a bet they all came from the same clan. Now who is going to squash out our elderly at the local A&Es? Answer on a postage stamp please, and addressed to Joanna Lummox. So, although I love England, its inhabitants leave a lot to be desired, don't they? Or is this what they would regard as progress, even if they noticed it? Would all this be a good thing, or wouldn't it? I don't know, I'm just a nationalist. I'm not a neo-Nazi or a thug or a fascist. I leave that to the socialist country I now inhabit, and the people who act in a manner worthy of the Stasi within their own communities. And finally, the argument, or is it? Husband, oh come on. Wife, leave me alone. Husband, it won't take long. Wife, I won't be able to sleep afterwards. Husband, I can't sleep without it. Wife, why do you think of things like this in the middle of the night? Husband, because I'm hot. Wife, you get hot at the darndest times. Husband, if you love me I wouldn't have to beg you. Wife, if you love me you'd be more considerate. Husband, you don't love me any more. Wife, yes I do, but let's forget it for tonight. Husband, please go on. Wife, all right, I'll do it. Husband, what's the matter, you need a flashlight? Wife, I can't find it in the dark. Husband, oh for heaven's sake feel for it. Wife, there, are you satisfied? Husband, oh yes. Wife, is it up far enough? Husband, yeah, that's good. Wife, right, now go to sleep, and the next time you want the bloody window open, do it yourself. Now, what were you expecting, listeners? You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozar, and I and the team at World at 8 and Radio Britain wish you all a very happy and a very safe weekend.